Okay, piston knurling. How did it come about and why do we even do it? Is it a good thing to do? Is it a bad thing to do? Well, hopefully after this you'll know exactly why it was done, because several people have given some good information, but they haven't given you every information. And I don't think that there's anyone that's actually dyno tested this except for me. So I'm hoping to put that input into this and give you some idea of why we should or should not knurl pistons. And could it possibly be an input, I mean a gain, could it possibly be a good thing to do for high performance or racing applications? And that's the whole point of this. So I'm going to put a little different light on it than you've had so far. All right. So Uncle Tony and I talked the other day, Uncle Tony's garage, and I told him, I said, look, I actually have dyno experience with this, so I'm going to shed some light on it as to what's going on. First of all, you need to understand that a piston is angled. They're not straight. So at the top here, and that was, this piston right here just is, all these measurements are legit on this piston. So at the top here, you've got a diameter of 3 inches, 804 thousandths. Now, by the way, if you want to convert that for you metric guys, this is like, yo, I got a cut in here. I'm sorry. Basically, I was in a super big hurry, but inches times 25.4 equals your millimeter conversion, and then if you have a metric number times 0.03937, that's going to be your inches number. That's actually what I use, and I'm sorry, I had to cut that in. So when you see in the video where I say inches times the number, please just overlook that. Okay guys, carry on. All you have to do, these are my actual equations that I use. So 3.084 times 0.03937 equals your millimeter answer. So if you want to convert any of these English numbers, inches to metric, that's how you do it. Now, the ring groove here would be from here up, right? From here up, that's 3 inches, 804 thousandths. Right below that, okay, 3 inches, 831 thousandths. So right off the go, the piston is much smaller here by about 30 thousandths. As you go down the skirt, the piston is angled, okay, it's tapered. You measure a piston right where I put the knurl on this thing. That's actually where you measure a piston diameter. It's just up from the bottom, and depending on how tall the piston is, depends on how far up from the bottom. But right in that area is where you measure. And as you see in the video where I knurled it, so what I'm doing guys is I'm showing you the different kinds of knurls we have. You have some like this with different textures, and you basically got like a cylinder, like a revolver type deal. Rotate it to the different ones. You have this type here that I've got chucked up right now, and no, this is not how I would do it, but for quick demonstration, because I'm super busy and I ain't got time to set this up, I just wanted to show you how this works. I'm rolling it through by hand, all right, and I then will add the pressure I want, how deep I want the knurl to go. There's a reason for doing this. I'm going to show you the reason. I'm going to show you why Smokey Unique did it. And we're going to talk about the dyno test results I had when I did this kind of thing. Alright, so stay tuned. The bottom, by the way, the bottom, because it's angled, the bottom is going to be your widest part of that piston. That's going to be the largest part of the piston at the very bottom of the skirt. That's 3 inches, 836. Okay, everybody understand that? Because I want you to back up to this knurl and I want you to see how large it is now. The knurl section is now 3 inches 8/48. And lo and behold, now that I've knurled it, it won't go into the block. It's too large, which is normal. That's what I want, okay? This is the actual process of what we have to do. So now what I do is I get a however much clearance I want. Let's just say 5 thousandths for ease of numbers. I will then take this piston and put it in the bore with a feeler gauge of 5 thousandths. Like I'll slide it between the piston and the cylinder wall. I will then take a very smooth flat file and I will just start to gently knock down the tops of these knurls. I might hit this one 4 or 5 strokes, go over here to the other side, hit it 4 or 5 strokes, and check it again. Once I get the clearance, the piston to wall clearance that I want, I go with it. Now I'm going to give you a story. 2006, we won the NASCAR Tour Modified Championship, the National Championship, and we won a local track championship as well. So we won a lot of money that year, and these are NASCAR engines that were filtered down to the Wheeling Tour cars. The engines were like about $50,000 to build one from scratch. And my engines at that time, this is 2006, were making about 627 horsepower. So let's remember that number. And you're saying, well, that's not all that. Well, that's because we're doing it with a 390 CFM carburetor. So this engine made 627, I think it was, pretty common what I was getting back then. With a 390 carb. And every bit of, I would have 210 hours in a build like this, okay? The heads, from me, the heads were, and rocker arms were $9,000, now it's back then, 2006. That's an 18-degree setup, okay? Basically, they were Bush motors with a 12-to-1 compression on gasoline. Had to be 12-to-1. NASCAR was very strict about it. So it's basically like a Bush engine with a roller cam 12-to-1 390 carburetor. Now, 2007 rolls along and there was miscommunication between myself and JE Pistons. And I don't know what happened. I think it was their fault. Whatever. But here I am. Now back then, by the way, we could expedite pistons in 4 days. And I had like a week to get this done for this first opening race. And so pistons came in. I'd already got my block. It was supposed to be done to 4 point, let's see where you can see this. The bore on this engine in particular was 4.135 with a stroke of 3.300, okay? That's what it was, bore and stroke. And I had about 5 days to get this done for the race. Well, anyway, the pistons show up and I go micing them, and lo and behold, they are way under, like almost 10 thousandths smaller than the finished bore size. Which, by the way, never do that until you get the piston in your hand. But, you know, I was in a hurry, so what do you do? And if they'd have made the piston right, wouldn't have this problem. So the piston was, the piston mic'd 10 thousandths smaller than the bore. Well, I'm in trouble now. I don't have time to expedite pistons in and get this engine done and dynoed and everything. So I call up my buddy Aubrey Fischel at Clemens Speed Shop. And Aubrey is like a smoky eunuch. Brilliant guy. I said, Aubrey, I don't know what to do. I can't coat that enough. By the way, why do we coat pistons, right? We coat pistons because piston to wall contact, cylinder, skirt to wall contact, it cuts down on the temperature, cuts on down on parasitic drag. That's why we coat pistons. So, yeah, it does matter. It also has to do with what I drew this here, with rod angularity differences, okay? This skirt will make contact with the cylinder wall. There's a film of oil on the wall, but it's not pressurized oil. And that's the whole reason why we have long and short rod differences, right? The longer the rod, the less angularity, the less side loading. The shorter the rod, the more angularity, the more side loading. And all this has to do with the bottom line of ring stability. So let me get to this. So these things were making 10 thousandths too small. Well, Aubrey goes, hey man, we can knurl them. I said, dang man, I ain't never done that before. I've seen it done, I've heard of it done, I've just never done it. He goes, well, you want me to help you? I said, yes. So he comes over to my shop, and I had the knurlers and everything. Let me show you that. So he comes over to the shop, and I have these different knurlers, right? This is a rotary style as far as like which ones you want. You have a fine and coarse. I hope you can see those. All right. It's kind of like a revolver. You can pull that pin and select which one you want. This is another style. Okay. So we got the knurler out, set it up, and I had a jig. Wasn't done like I'm showing you in the video because I'm in a hurry, but I have this jig that actually comes in here, locks in. You actually clamp onto the fixture here, and it holds the piston straight, and we knurl it. You don't want to grab this in the lathe in any part of here because you don't want any teeth marks in it, but for the video it's fine. So we knurl it, and then we knurl it. It's about 12 thousandths bigger than the hole when I got done, and I flat filed it. Got about 4.5 to 5 thousandths clearance, and he's like, yeah, it'll work, man, trust me. I said, okay. I'm taking this guy's word, and I trust this guy. It's a $50,000 engine. It's got a race. We're defending national champs, and you know, I had very, very good engine, right? So I didn't want any problems. Well, I get this thing done on a Thursday evening, and this particular race coming up was on a Saturday. So we're dynoing this thing, and I put it on my dyno, and lo and behold, the Knurl piston combination, if you want to call it that, it made 635 horsepower with the Knurl piston. And I was like, wow, that's about 8 better than what I've been getting. Okay? All right. We went, had the race. I didn't have any problems. No knocking noise, no smoking noise, no smoking, no anything. Run a 250 lap race. Finished second. The following Tuesday, the new pistons arrived. I took the engine back apart. I just barely honed it just because I'm just OCD. I put the new pistons in at 4.5 thousandths clearance. Go back to the dyno, and guess what I made? 628 horsepower, which is what I've been getting with that combination. So, what do I deduct from that? Well, I deduct this. There is no doubt in my mind, and let me get to this too. What did I find when I took the engine apart with the Knurl piston? Here's what I found, because I wanted to pay close attention. I noticed when I took the heads off the engine that it was some oily residue up here. I just kind of was like checking everything out, and I was top dead center. I was able to do that. Not that much, but I was like, wow. Took the engine apart, look at the pistons, and the knurl was nearly flattened on both sides. And of course, you're only really making contact for the most part in this area, okay? You've heard people say that the pistons are not round, and that looks round, but it's not round, okay? Some of them get round when they get hot. Some of them are oval shaped the entire time. But yeah, the knurl was flattened. So all that work I did, the knurling, did not last. And that is why you should not knurl pistons for racing applications. Turns out Smokey Unick was knurling pistons, and he only did a few because he didn't have no other choice. He was in the same situation that I was in. You got to remember back then, they didn't have they didn't have CNC, they didn't have the piston companies to call and say, hey, because I've done this, I say, hey, I need a piston that's 1/1000th bigger than this one. You say, you do that? Yes. Because when you're doing NASCAR motors, remember, what you're seeing of me now is the done side. My shop was huge, okay? This is my retired side, all right? I'm not in that life anymore. That's why I'm sharing this knowledge with you. It had beat the knurls plumb off of it. It flattened them, okay? And as it got flat, the piston did more rocking whenever it changed directions. So what happened when my piston changed directions and started rocking? What did my ring do? My rings broke seal. They broke contact with the cylinder wall. Or at least they got so far that they weren't able to seal the way they were designed. I'd rather want to hear compression height. It's the center of the pin at the top of the piston. Why did I put that up there? Because compression height is critical. If you've watched my other videos, I say that I stay within a 1/150 compression height on racing, high-end racing stuff. Why? Because I have found over the years that that is one of the best compression heights to be at for very high RPM, lasting a long time, and not seeing any gains when I go thinner. This piston here is 925. This one right here, 925. That's a lot different than the 1/150 compression height. And these don't last, especially not at 8,800 RPMs. They don't hold up that well. Once I start getting the rock going on, I'm losing ring seal. And guess what? My engine starts going backwards on power. I start getting oil consumption. If you get oil into the cylinder, into the chamber, you're going to get detonation. You're going to lose power. It don't like that. It does not want oil in that combustion chamber. So all I have to say this, I feel like there's so much information here, I feel like I'm rambling, I'm trying to keep it together. But yeah, guys, I basically made about 8 horsepower with Knurl pistons. And why? Because all that was touching the wall was that. That's it, because I put one stripe across there. I file fitted it in, and that's all there was, is that. And it matters. It matters, guys. Bearing surface, as far as contact area, matters. Once it got unstable, I guarantee you, I didn't do this, but I guarantee you, if I had dynoed the engine when I got it back, I guarantee you it would have been down probably 15 or more, because it was rocking like a banshee in there. I mean, just going crazy. Because we know when we started, this was 10 thousandths too small. But I had to do what I had to do. And so did Smokey Unic. He couldn't call up Wiseco or CP or JE or whoever and say, hey, make me a piston 1 thousandths bigger than this one, or 5 thousandths bigger than this one, you know, whatever the case was. He couldn't do that. So he did what he had to do. Knurl pistons work great for low RPM or stock applications. But if you can at all get the right one, get the right piston, guys. Don't do this in racing. It's not an advantage. It's an advantage if you're making a dyno pull. And by the way, if you knurl it wrong, it's still not an advantage. It has to be just enough knurl to keep the piston straight. But if you put too many knurls on it, it slows it, too much drag, and you lose your advantage. It's the only advantage for a dyno pull. That's it. So 7 or 8 horsepower is what I got from it. And once the engine had, I don't know when this happened, but sometime during that 250 lap race, the knurls were rubbed off, smashed back in, and the piston was doing this. And I lost it. You know, I didn't dyno it, but it was down. Clearly, it was down. So, anyways, I just wanted to share that with you because nobody has showed you that part of it in the actual dyno test. This is why we do it. It's a cool thing to do if you're in a pinch. It's not something I do on anybody's engine. Not permanently. You know, if we're in a pinch and we have to do it, then we do. But trust me, it comes right back out. On Grandpa's tractor, no problem. Put around daily driver, nah, I don't know. I just don't know. Do the right thing, right? Put the right piston in. Anyways, guys, I'm saying hello to Uncle Tony, and I hope this video helps I hope this video helps enlighten you a little more on the whole process. So that was the whole idea behind it. Thanks for watching. It's Brian Salter Racing Engines, telling you to have a great week, and stay tuned for more. Thank you.